Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Let's take a trip around the curve. Sundance was shut down due to pro-Palestinian protests on Main Street. Shut it all the way down. And Scream star Melissa Barrera was among the demonstrators. The LA Times handed out layoff notices. The Guild says 94 of its members were impacted during the Sundance Film Festival. Sundance titles are being scooped up this week. Amazon MGM Studios is in final negotiations to acquire Aubrey Plaza's My Old Ass for $15 million. Kerry Washington signed on to executive produce Daughters, which won 2 awards at the festival. And Searchlight landed Jesse Eisenberg's directed A Real Pain in the first big Sundance $10 million deal. The Razzies came out this week with Exorcist Believer, Winnie the Pooh, and Expendables on the list. Coleman Domingo, Keke Palmer, and Ayo Edebiri lead the NAACP Image Award nominations. Oppenheimer, Barbie, Anatomy of a Fall, and more are vying for editing prizes at the Ace Eddie Awards, and filmmaker John Waters is set to be honored. 32 Sounds is the upset winner at the Cinema Eye Honors, and American Fiction Origin, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Crown, and Slow Horses are among the USC Scripter Awards nominees. Annette Bening is to receive the honorary award from the Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild. Second Annual Visual Effects Society nominees have been announced, including The Creator, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and HBO's The Last of Us. Oscar nominations dropped earlier this week, and they came in for Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, Da'Vine Joy Randolph for her role in The Holdovers. Domingo received a nomination for his role as Bayard Rustin in Rustin, along with Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction and his co-star Sterling K. Brown. The writer and director of American Fiction, Corey Jefferson, also got a nomination, along with May December Sammy Birch and Lily Gladstone, all of them receiving a career first. Oppenheimer and Poor Things lead the 2024 BAFTA nominations, and June Giovanni is set to receive Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema. Artios Awards also dropped, which are happening on March 7th. Those nominees include Wonka, Barbie, Oppenheimer, The Iron Claw, and Across the Spider-Verse. AFCA announced their winners, including Coleman Domingo, Ingenue Ellis-Taylor, Lily Gladstone, Da'Vine Joy Randolph, Daniel Brooks, and Sterling K. Brown. The 15th annual award ceremony will be on February 21st. The 2023 juggernaut of Barbie and Oppenheimer will face off against many other films for the PGA Awards, where Gail Berman is set to receive the Producers Guild Norman Lear Award. Cinema Audio Society nominations include Barbie, Oppenheimer, The Eras Tour, and more, with J.J. Abrams set for the Filmmaker Award. Three Identical Strangers producer is making his directorial debut on a medical scandal doc from Film 4 and Dogwolf. Superhot is a wild ride 10-part series going deep into the subculture, streaming on Hulu right now. Young Sheldon is set for a spinoff at CBS. Tyreek Withers is starring opposite Marlon Wayans in Universal's and Monkey Paw's psychological horror picture, Goat. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes moves its schedule up by 2 weeks to May 24th, 2024. Project X Radio Silence entered joint venture with MRC for production. Joel Kim booster spec Again has been scooped up by Searchlight Pictures. And Warner Brothers Pictures buys Kristen Hanna's book The Women, which is a developing portrait of Vietnam nurses. Rosa Salazar is the female lead opposite Mark Wahlberg in Amazon MGM's Play Dirty. Jenny Slate is set to join Michelle Williams in the FX series Dying for Sex. Universal Pictures options the rights to Red Hot Chili Peppers frontman Anthony Kiedis' autobiography Scar Tissue. Christopher Landon is in talks to direct a werewolf film, Big Bad, for Lionsgate. Richard Simmons is not happy at all about the biopic starring Pauly Shore, which is currently in development. 24 Grammys. The trio has a combined 14 nominations at this year's ceremony. Reba McEntire, Post Malone, and Andra Day are set for Super Bowl pre-game performances, which features who? Usher. Selena Gomez and David Henry reunite for Wizards of Waverly Place, a sequel pilot for the Disney Channel. Blumhouse's James McAvoy thriller Speak No Evil heads to the fall schedule, and Schmigadoon has been canceled after 2 seasons at Apple TV+. James Brolin, Owen Mackin, and Lizzie Green join Netflix series Ransom Canyon. Lionsgate finds its young Michael Jackson and Juliano Valdi for Antoine Fuqua's Michael with Coleman Domingo set to play Joe Jackson. Looking forward to this one, folks. The HCA denies it sought to improperly influence Critics' Choice Awards voting, but the group notes it tells studios its awards are given a key voting period and talent could benefit from attending or presenting. Stay tuned on that one. Sony Pictures Entertainment dedicates a John Williams Music building on its historic Culver City lot. The legendary composer was joined and celebrated by Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, and other Hollywood leaders at the naming ceremony. Taylor Sheridan is set to write and direct an adaptation of Empire of the Summer Moon. Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler are reuniting on a new mystery project. Ooh, can't wait. Jason Reitman's SNL 1975 casts Gabriel LaBelle, Cooper Hoffman, and Rachel Sennott, Ella Hunt, Emily Farron, and Kim Matula based on real-life behind-the-scenes accounts of Saturday Night Live's opening night. Carol Turner is named head of production for Disney Entertainment Television. Amblin vet John Budowitz joins Aggregate Films, and Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun explore online dystopia in Sam and Andy Zucchero's Love Me, which just won the Alfred P. Sloan Feature Film Prize for science-themed movies. Lindsay Lohan and Kristen Chenoweth are set to star in a new Netflix holiday flick, Our Little Secret, and Nathan Lane is cast as Dominic Dunn in the Netflix series Monsters, reuniting him with Ryan Murphy. The Great Gatsby musical with Jeremy Jordan and Eva Noblezada is set for a spring Broadway opening. Speaking of Broadway, the president of the Broadway League, Charlotte St. Martin, is set to retire after 18 years. The diva is known for making derogatory remarks about understudies. We ain't having her for that. Elliot Page's drama Close to You has been acquired by Greenwich Entertainment. Flipside, Chris Wilker's record store doc from E.P. Judd Apatow has been acquired by Oscilloscope. Atari Limited Series doc is set with Project Runway producers Dan Colforth and Jane Lipsitz. Isabella Ferreira and Alexander Neustadter are set to play Young Lily and Young Atlas in Sunny and Wayfarer's adaptation of It Ends With Us. Build-A-Bear characters have inspired an animated series Kaboo based on kawaii culture. Godzilla Minus One has been remastered in black and white and sets a U.S. theatrical run. Warner Brothers' Jason Momoa Minecraft movie finds a gem in Jennifer Coolidge, and Anna Faris boards Andrew Nichols' pick Object, as Melanie Linsky departs due to scheduling conflicts. Forrest Whitaker boards the MGM Plus series Emperor of Ocean Park, and Jurassic World 4 has been greenlit by Universal Pictures. Anthony Anderson, Marseille Martin, Ramon Rodriguez, Anthony Starr, and more join G20, the Viola Davis-led action thriller from Amazon MRC. The Book of Eli prequel series starring John Boyega from the film's creative team hits marketplace. Nicole Kidman is set to star in the Aussie film Mice, and Hulu lands a Bon Jovi docuseries from Gotham Chopra. Netflix film chairman Scott Stubert has exited the company to start his own company. Catch Up Entertainment pays a mid-7 figures for Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis' Goodrich. Colin Firth is set to star in Sky and Peacock's limited series Lockerbie as campaigner and grieving father Jim Swire. Ayo Edebiri is set to host in February SNL with Jennifer Lopez set as the musical guest. Netflix won't release Halle Berry's sci-fi film The Mothership as it was in post-production and never completed. Tessa Thompson's Viva Maud banner signs a first-look deal with Amazon MGM Studios. Congrats, girl. Margaret Qualley is set to reteam with Ethan Coen on Honey, Don't. John M. Chu and his Electric Somewhere company signs a first-look feature film deal at Warner Brothers Pictures. Julianne Moore joins Tilda Swinton in Pedro Almodovar's English-language debut, The Room Next Door. Anthony Ramos is set to lead Bob the Builder animated feature for Mattel Films. And Netflix boards the thriller Animals with Matt Damon starring and Ben Affleck directing. Edward Norton to play Pete Seeger in James Mangold's Bob Dylan pick, A Complete Unknown, as Benedict Cumberbatch departs the project due to scheduling. IAG signs the Book of Clarence's Nicholas Pinnock. Congrats, my brother. Focus Feature lands Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag with Kate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender starring. George Carlin's estate sues makers of AI comedy special for likeness theft and copyright infringement. Today on the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, we are recapping Sundance 2024 and a review of Snoop Dogg's comedy, R-rated comedy, The Underdoggs. Stay tuned, all that and more coming up next on the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata right now. I want to get right into a few things. This last week, we had a lot of Oscar nominations and whatnot come out. Um, and so we're going to talk a little bit about the nominees. The nominees for International Feature Film, which was Io Capitano, Perfect Days from Japan, Io Capitano's from Italy, Society of the Snow from Spain. I gave you guys an interview from the people involved with that a few weeks ago. That's a Netflix film entered to the category by Spain. The Teacher's Lounge and Zone of Interest. And then animated short film, Letter to a Pig, 995 Senses, Our Uniform, Pachydermy, War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko Ono. I haven't seen any of these, so I'm looking forward to checking out these films. Then there is the nominees for Best Picture: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. The Color Purple was shut completely out except for the nomination for Danielle Brooks for Best Supporting Actress, and we'll get to that one in a minute. Live action short film went to the After. That's David Oyelowo's film. Invincible, Night of Fortune, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, Red, White, and Blue, and The Wondrous Story. I said The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar already. Then we're going to get into costume design for Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Next up is original song. Diane Warren, y'all, got a 15th nomination for The Fire Inside from Flaming Hot. I'm Just Ken, which is by Mark Robeson and Andrew Wyatt from the Barbie movie. It Never Went Away from American Symphony by John Baptiste. I don't know how to pronounce that. Wasahati, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm sure it's an Indian term, from Killers of the Flower Moon, and What I Was Made For by Billie and Phineas Eilish, from the Barbie movie. Then we're going to go down to, I believe there's some performances up in here. Yes. Leading actor was Bradley Cooper, Coleman Domingo, Paul Giamatti, Cillian Murphy, and Jeffrey Wright. This category right here is the first time in history since Denzel Washington and Will Smith that two men of color have been nominated in this category, with it being Coleman Domingo and Jeffrey Wright. Coleman Domingo is also the first Afro-Latina to be nominated for an Academy Award. Actor in a supporting role, Sterling K. Brown, Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr., Ryan Gosling, and Mark Ruffalo. I will get into who I think is going to win in the coming weeks as we get closer to the Oscars, because we have a whole month before we get into that. But I'm just telling you who was nominated in case you missed it. Actress in a supporting role, like I mentioned earlier, was Danielle Brooks. America Ferrera is the first Honduran person from Honduras to be nominated for an Academy Award. Divine Joy Randolph, Jodie Foster. And then we have directing. We have Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos, Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer. Then we have original screenplay, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May, December, and Past Lives. And then we have adapted screenplay, which I was kind of glad to see my boy Cord Jefferson in this, for American Fiction, Barbie, Greta Gerwig, I spoke about that earlier, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Makeup and hairstyling for Golda. That was a really good film. If you haven't seen that with Helen Mirren, you might want to check that out. Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Society of the Snow. Animated feature film, The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Boba Wine, The People's President. I've talked about that film here numerous times and did a Q&A with the filmmaker and the subject and his wife. The Eternal Memory, I spoke about that a lot this year. Four Daughters, I've spoken about that. 20 Days in Mariupol and To Kill a Tiger. Made my way on over to the Sundance Film Festival and saw some fabulous films. I'm going to come back on camera and talk about them. I'm also going to talk about this one next week. Gospel is hosted by Henry Louis Gates. It's going to be on PBS starting in February for Black History Month. I think that's about it. So this is what I did while I was at Sundance. I went to the midnight macro party, have never been, had the time of my life. My clothes was soaking wet. It was horrible. Then I went over to the after party for the American Society of Magical Negroes, where I took a picture with Justice Smith. Justice plays the lead in that. He has a monologue in that film that is fire. Before I left to go out of town for Sundance, though, I ran over to Fox 11 LA and I talked about the Emmys because the Emmys also happened right before I left. While I was at Sundance, I paid a little tribute and went over to support my sister, Angelique Jackson, who did a panel there with Giancarlo Esposito and Chiwetel Ejiofor as some of the subjects. Oh, I wanted to acknowledge this too. Dexter King, the youngest son of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., passed away during this last week. So we just want to put some respect and reverence on his name and give condolences to his family. Then I talked to my sister, Lisa Fisher. If you don't recognize Lisa Fisher is a Grammy Award-winning recording artist. She tied for the Grammy with Patti LaBelle. She also sang background for Luther Vandross for years and years and years before moving on to singing with the Rolling Stones, Tina Turner, and many other really famous recording artists that you know. But when they did a tribute to Luther Vandross after the documentary Luther Never Too Much, directed by Dawn Porter, screened, they had a little get together afterwards, and me and Lisa caught up there. Lisa and I sang background together back in the past at some point too. So that's how we know each other. And I think that's about it for what I did. So I'm gonna come back on camera and we're gonna talk about a few little films here and there. I wanted to talk a little bit about these nominees. I want to talk about these nominees real quick before I move on. So I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things that I didn't say prior. So I talked about America Ferrera. I also did not mention that Lily Gladstone is the first person of Native American descent nominated. Coleman Domingo and Jodie Foster, who are openly LGBTQ actors, played LGBTQ characters on screen. And that is the first time that has occurred in Oscar nomination history. I just wanted to point that out. And I also wanted to point out, I think I said that there were 3 women filmmakers who saw their movies get nominated: Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Greta Gerwig's Barbie, and Celine Song's Past Lives. Past Lives is one of my movies. I don't know why people didn't get on the Past Lives train, but I'm still on the Past Lives train. I'm holding out hope. And in original score, Laura Karpman, the composer for American Fiction, became one of the 5 women recognized in the Oscar slot in the last 25 years. Now that's a damn shame that she became one of 5 women recognized in that slot in 5 years. That don't make no kind of daggone sense. It really doesn't. But okay, whatever. So I want to talk about this film that's coming out. Well, not film. It's like it's a series, and it's called MLK X. It's going to start airing on Nat Geo and Hulu on February 1st, also on ABC on February 1st, and explores their formative years, their pioneering accomplishments, their dueling philosophies, and their key relationships. Kelvin Harrison Jr., you guys have seen me do interviews with Kelvin Harrison Jr. here a zillion times. You saw me do him for Monster, I think it was called Monsters and Men back in the day at TIFF. And then I interviewed him for Chevalier. I interviewed him for Elvis. I've interviewed him for Loose. I've interviewed him for a plethora of projects that I've seen him in. He has done it again, y'all. He plays Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I know you look going, Kelvin Harrison Jr. playing MLK Jr. I'm telling you, he has MLK's speaking cadence down. And at some point, you forget that you're watching a really young dude inhabit the body of this man who's seen and done some things, right? It's really quite lovely. And the same goes for Aaron Pierre. You remember him from the Underground Railroad with Barry Jenkins. And let's not forget their wives, Marucci Opia and Jamie Lawson, who respectively play Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz. These four actors are fabulous in this role. Absolutely fabulous. Do yourselves and a really, really big favor and check it out. You will not be sorry. I promise you, you will not be sorry. I also saw this film, which is kind of comical. So, we love some Snoop Dogg. We love Snoop Dogg. He has a movie on Amazon Prime called The Underdogs, and it's directed by Charles Stone II. It stars Snoop, Tika Sumter, and Mike Epps. And basically, Snoop is playing this guy named Jason. They they call him Two J's Jennings, and he is a former uh, football player who has fallen upon hard times and is literally kind of hit rock bottom. When Jason is sentenced to community service, coaching, he ends up coaching this unruly like Pee Wee football team, and he sees it as an opportunity to turn his life around, aka get some attention. What happens is it's very funny. Like I thought it was funny. A lot of people didn't like it. Maybe I thought it was funny because I curse all the time. Maybe that's what it is. But there's a lot of cursing. I mean, if it's Snoop Dogg, you know it's gonna be some cursing. You know it's gonna be some weed jokes. You know that's just what it is. But it's kind of like the Mighty Ducks meets the Bad News Bears, um, with black people in it. That's really what it is. And it was fun for that reason because it was dealing with you know, the Bad News Bears and Mighty Ducks for Black people. There's lots of lessons to be learned about embracing one's uniqueness. They end up having a little girl on the team with red hair. Nobody knows who she is. They nicknamed her Ghost. One of the little boys, he's scared to carry the ball. So they Snoop says, imagine it's a titty and just call it. And they put titties on the back of his, not literal titties, but the word titties on the back of his little jersey. Look, it's crass, it's funny, and if you like crass and funny and you like Snoop Dogg, you're gonna love this film. Um, in addition to the lessons about what it is to be unique, there's also lessons about supporting each other no matter what and being there for each other no matter what. So let's talk about one of my favorites. So Luther Vandross, everybody loves Luther. Everybody loves Luther Vandross. I can't think of one person that has heard Luther Vandross sing and doesn't love Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross has a documentary at Sundance that was called Luther Never Too Much. It was directed by Dawn Porter. And it is the most loving, reverent, respectful documentary I have ever seen of an artist in my life. She paid lots of respect to him. She interviewed childhood friends, she interviewed colleagues, she interviewed some of his background singers, and there were lots of clips of him on the Oprah Winfrey Show because apparently he was on Oprah quite a bit. But the thing that really sticks out for me about Luther is the fact that Luther, like a lot of celebrities now, he had his weight was going up and down, and he was always doing a bunch of stuff. And when your weight goes up and down like that, it takes a toll on your heart. So Luther, there were jokes, the fat Luther versus the skinny Luther, that kind of thing. But and he made fun of himself. But the thing that was the most prolific for me watching that documentary is he had a song called "Any Love," and the lyrics of that song probably describe what it was like to live inside the skin of Luther Vandross. Because Luther Vandross sang about love all the time, but he was never able to find any love. Boo-hooed my face off when I saw that one. Again, it was called Luther Never Too Much. I also saw this documentary called Will and Harper. Okay, so I got a story about this one. So Will and Harper is directed by this dude named Josh Greenbaum. Back in the day, I did a pilot, like really bare bones pilot. It was kind of like The Office, but for TSA workers. And I forget the name of it, but Josh Greenbaum created it and wrote it. And they sold it to CBS, and CBS sat on it for like years and never ever used it. And so it just went into pilot oblivion. But Josh Greenbaum directed Will and Harper. And I saw him on the plane ride going to Sundance, and he was like, "Hey, you want to come see my movie?" I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking he's producing it. I didn't realize he had directed it until they said, "Let's welcome director Josh Greenbaum." I'm like, "Oh my God, he directed a movie at Sundance. That is fucking awesome." But anyway, it just with Will Ferrell and this friend of his who was a writer at Saturday Night Live. And during the pandemic, he came out to Will and told him that he was trans and that he was transitioning into a woman's body and wanted to take a road trip to celebrate that, because he did road trips all the time. This guy did when he was a guy. Now, she, as Harper, wanted to take a road trip with her friend Will. And it was a road trip for the ages. It was very emotional. It was very lovely. It was a lot of things, but people will really love that film when they see it, because it just goes to show you, if somebody's your friend, they're your friend. It doesn't matter to them what body you're in. If somebody loves you and that friendship is really real and true, they're going to love you no matter whether you're a woman, a man, whatever you decide to be. They're going to love you in spite of it. And I have to say, I have a newfound respect for Will Ferrell, because without hesitation, he was like, "Sure, Harper, let's go across the country." And he had this one moment where they were out somewhere. They were in a bar, and he didn't realize. I mean, in like a state that does not like gay people, does not like trans people, does not like anything that's different. And he and Harper went into this bar, and Will realized that he was essentially putting Harper in danger, and he kind of broke down and cried, because those are the types of things that when you have a friend that comes out, or you have a friend that is struggling, you don't necessarily realize that their life is in danger for the simple fact that they've decided to be different. You don't get it. And he got it, and I applaud him for that. That was a lovely moment to watch. It was a really lovely moment to watch. I applaud him and give him snaps and claps for that. Another documentary I saw was called Daughters, and Daughters won the best documentary an audience award. Is directed by these two sisters, Angela Patton and Natalie Ray. And let me just say, a lot of the documentaries I saw, they were done by first-time filmmakers and or women. There was a lot of that at Sundance this year, and I couldn't have been happier. So basically what happens in this Daughters documentary is that there's these four young girls that prepare for this special daughter daddy dance with their incarcerated dads as part of a unique fatherhood program in a Washington, D.C. jail. When I tell you, there was a guy sitting next to me, he was a blubbering mess the entire film. They focus on four little girls, and as a result of this 8-year journey, um, the filmmakers have been able to make some big changes in the incarceration system for these men that have daughters, and it meaningfully challenges the stereotypes around incarceration, and it serves as a really poignant reminder that maintaining familial bonds can be both healing and empowering. Two of the men that were in the program were at Sundance with their daughters, and I'm telling you, it was something to see. As somebody who has been on the other side of that with with a family member that's been incarcerated, and it was really special, and I was glad to see that they won some awards. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, is a 15 just got sold to Warner Brothers for $15 million. It's directed by Ian Behoit and Peter Edegui. And it shows never before seen home movies and personal archives, and it's mostly told in Christopher Reeve's voice himself. But the thing that I walked away with the most from watching that film is that he had two sets of children. Alexandra and Matthew are his kids with his what we thought was his first wife, but the woman that he had two kids with, they never really married for whatever reason, and they were both fine with that. And his second child, well, not second child, his third child with Dana Reeve, who lost her life to lung cancer. And so Will is that son. Will lost his mother, his father, and one of his grandparents in 18 months when he was 6 years old. Will is now a correspondent at ABC News, and all three kids are thriving. And that was the most heartwarming thing to see, is that none of these kids were mentally messed up from losing Chris or Dana. But I can only imagine losing it makes me get choked up now, that losing a parent is an insurmountable loss, something that you'll never ever get over. It's like a part of you just goes away. So I was happy to see that they had all come out on the other side. Chiwetel Ejiofor, I love him, have such a huge celebrity crush on him, but he has a film that he directed called Rob Peace, and it's about this guy named Rob. It's a true story about this guy that grew up in Newark, New Jersey. He graduated from Yale with honors in molecular biophysics and biochemistry while he was on a scholarship, and he was leading this dual life of selling weed and trying to figure out how to come up with a compound to help his father when his father got diagnosed with cancer. It's one of those movies, and Mary J. Blige is in it, and she's fabulous. Jay Will plays Rob Peace. He's fabulous. And Chiwetel Ejiofor, of course, plays Rob's dad. But the thing that I walked away from this film with is, everybody is born into a different set of circumstances. Some are good, some are bad, some are in between. But Rob Peace used his brain to try to help his dad. He wasn't selling weed just for the sake of selling weed. He was selling weed to make money to do more research to find a compound to help his dad beat the cancer. Ultimately, his dad lost his life, and so does Rob Peace, which is ironic that his last name is Peace, and that's all he was trying to bring to this world, and he got taken out with everything but peace. Look for that one when it comes out. It's gonna tear you up. It wore me out because it has an ending that you don't expect. Seeking Mavis Beacon. So Mavis Beacon or Mavis Bacon is this, it was a typing tutorial program, and I had it up until about 2 years ago. I got rid of mine, but it was in the late 80s, and it was software to help you boost up your typing skills. And it was kind of like the precursor to what we know as AI right now. But apparently this woman was a real, Mavis Beacon was a real woman. And these filmmakers, Jasmine Renee Jones, goes on this quest. Her and her friend go on this quest to try to find Mavis, find out what happened to her, find out, why the game stopped. They just wanted to get some answers. It is wild. But the wildest thing that you'll get from that film is that it's really giving you a look into AI in a way that you never even saw coming. And when these girls when Jasmine and her friends started getting closer and closer to the answers, a lot of stuff started getting in their way. It was deep. It was really, really deep. There's a lot of observational footage. They sit alongside interviews, and um, each clip is made richer and richer and richer through the investigation that Jones does. And her vision is vibrant, and she's full of curiosity, and she's refreshingly open-hearted. And so it was just nice to see two young women be curious, and not in a way that was tabloidish or for clicks on a TikTok video. So that was great. Lucy Lawless, so y'all know her as Xena the Warrior Princess. She had a documentary called Never Look Away, and it was about this New Zealand-born, groundbreaking CNN camera woman named Margaret Moth. That wasn't really her name. Doesn't matter though. She was groundbreaking, and it's so ironic that she covered war all the time, and then her life literally became changed due to war. I won't tell you what happens to her, but it's a fascinating story. The big ticket item at Sundance was this movie called The American Society of Magical Negroes. It was directed by Kobe Libby, again, a first-time filmmaker. And what happens is this young man gets recruited into a society of Black magical people who dedicate their lives to a cause of utmost importance, making white people's lives easier. I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. But the thing that I took away from this movie is that as Black people, we deal with a lot of microaggressions from white people. Like if they bump into us, they don't necessarily say they're sorry. We say we're sorry. And they don't even, they don't think twice about it because they're used to Black people being in a subservient position or behaving in a subservient way. So that is addressed in the film. The first half of this movie is a little crazy, and it took me a minute to figure out what was going on. But by the time it gets to Justice's monologue and David Allen Greer's monologue, when David Allen Greer does this monologue about his father being a shoe shine man and having his head spat upon, and this is why he's chosen to live his life the way that he has. And when Justice gives a monologue about saying that, you know, he doesn't he it took him 27 years to realize that there's nothing wrong with him just because of the color of his skin. Those two monologues are very, very powerful and make the film worth watching, but it takes a minute to get to that point. Sue Bird in the Clutch is another documentary that I saw. So when I ran into my friend Angelique, she took me to the party that where this film was being celebrated. It's produced by Jay Ellis from Insecure, and it's directed by Sarah Dowland, and is dealing with this 21 professional career in WNBA player Sue Bird, who I also had a really long conversation with. And she is back. I watched in her fiance, U.S. soccer star Megan Rapinoe. Let me tell you something. Megan and Sue Bird and Sarah, they are the ish. They are the real deal. And that documentary is worth watching. I loved it so much because you can't, when we think about the WNBA, we think about guys having these long basketball and sports careers, but we don't think about women having those types of careers, especially from, the really young age of high school all the way through to almost middle age. But this girl, Sue Bird, just blazed trails all over the place. And it was really wonderful to see her um, story get played out on film, on court and off, and to have her embrace being LGBTQ and her relationship in a film is very important for representation for women and for men that identify as such, because it makes them feel that they're not alone, and that this story is not an exception. It's now becoming the norm, and that's a beautiful thing. Frida won the editing award, another documentary I saw directed by Carla Gutierrez. It was wonderful, y'all. She does this, her editor Renata, the director's name is Carla, the editor's name is Renata. I'm just saying. But she does this thing in the film where she animates Frida's paintings to tell the story about Frida Kahlo from the time she was a kid to the time she passed away. It is freaking fire. This documentary, it was one of my favorites, hands down. It's directed by Carla Gutierrez. Trust me, you'll be hearing a lot about that. You'll also be hearing a lot about Skywalkers. It's coming to Netflix. Netflix just purchased it. It's directed by Jeff Zimbalist. So it deals with these not two couples. It deals with these two people who end up becoming a couple. They're daredevils. And what they do is they journey across the globe to climb skyscrapers that are under construction and almost finished. And so toward the end of the film, they travel the globe to climb this super skyscraper that is just ridiculous. They end up it's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith meets Entrapment meets Ocean's 11. It is crazy as hell, but I was riveted from the first frame to the last. You will love that. You'll also love Titus Kaphar, who is a wonderful artist. He had a film called Exhibiting Forgiveness. He utilizes his paintings to find freedom from his past, a Black artist on the path to success. He's derailed by an unexpected visit from his estranged father, a recovering addict desperate to reconcile. Together, they learn that forgetting might be a greater challenge than forgiving. When I tell you Andre Holland got an Oscar-nominated performance in this film, I do not exaggerate. He is doing the daggone thing. Andre Holland, people are sleeping on Andre Holland, but he's great. And Titus Kaphar, his artwork, he has the signature thing where he cuts figures out to make you look at the art not as a particular person, not as a Black person, an Asian person, a Latino person, but just an individual. It was beautiful. And it really goes to show you how, the title is called Exhibiting Forgiveness because he literally, the artist that Andre plays in the film literally puts his art on display, which is literally exhibiting his forgiveness toward his father. It was beautiful. Better Angels, The Gospel According to Tammy Faye. It's directed by Dana Adams Shapiro. It's a 4-episode docuseries told about, it's about Tammy Faye Baker. You're not going to learn anything new about Tammy Faye Baker in this documentary, but it is kind of riveting to watch anything about her because we get insight from her son. And I don't think we've ever seen a documentary where they talk directly to her son and talk about how she was affected by Jim Baker's shenanigans and how that eventually took a toll on her life in the long run. It's literally from the point of view of her son, but you're not going to learn anything new, but it's very entertaining. The Greatest Night in Pop is coming on January 29th to Netflix. It deals with the making of We Are the World. Now, if you don't know that song, look it up online. It is a song that was written by Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, and it was composed by Quincy Jones. And it talks about what it took to bring 40 artists together on this fateful night in January in 1985 for them to record this song. You see Bob Dylan being insecure. You see some of the biggest recording artists in the world be insecure and unsure about their artistry because they're in a room with other people. It's fascinating to watch and a lot of fun. And Lionel Richie was at Sundance telling story after story after story about the event, which I will share later on. I also saw, and last but not least, I saw this film called Hitman. So it's inspired by this unbelievable true story that was taken from a Texas Monthly article by Skip Hollingsworth. Linklatter's Bernie, I'm sorry, the articles inspired Powell's character, who is Gary Johnson, who was the real guy who worked as a fake contract killer for the police. But Linklatter's movie makes sure to clarify that it is bigger plot twists are completely fictional. So what happens in this film is Powell he pretends to be a contract killer. He really isn't. He ends up hooking up with this girl, pretends to her to be a contract killer, and things just kind of go all haywire. It is the craziest movie I have ever seen, but it was super funny and it was super intense all at the same time. It wasn't gory or anything, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed watching it. I really did. So I spent a lot of time at the Latin X house. Lisa Barlow, who is in the middle, she's one of the, I want to say Desperate Housewives, one of the Real Housewives from Salt Lake City, and that's LaVon. I've been hanging with LaVon every year when I go to Sundance. It's like our thing. So I think those are all the pictures I have from that night. Oh wait, do I have one more? I might have one more. Oh, I do have one more. I thought I have two more. So this was after the American Society of Magical Negroes. That's Lonnie Love and her boo James, David Allen Greer, and the young lady who's next to me was in the film, as was the other guy. They had some small pivotal parts in the film, and James was in the film too. But we took that photograph as we were on our way to some other things. This is what it looked like in Park City. When I tell you, it was so snowy and cold that was where my little bus stop was. So they have these shuttle buses that you take in Park City, right? And what they do is you go to a little bus stop and you wait, and they come and they pick you up. Well, baby, that bus stop, I don't know if you can tell from that picture, but that particular day, the temperatures had dropped something awful. And it was slick, slick, slick. And I had on my little Ugg boots, but apparently my Ugg boots had lost the grip. So I went to walk and almost busted my booty 10 ways to Sunday trying to get to the bus. So I had to take little baby steps to get there. It was a hot buttered mess. I was like, what is happening right now? It was crazy. It really, really was. There were a lot of narrative films at Sundance. I didn't get to see a whole lot of them. I was really focused on the documentaries because so now we're about to go into award season again. And so now that we're in the award season that's going to lay out for 2024, I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to see a lot of the documentaries that come out. So I try to see them all and a few key narrative films when I'm at Sundance so that I can get them off the schedule and make time and room for some other things. Oh, I also wanted to tell you guys that I'm going to be on, let me find it, the Grio Network, which is owned by Byron Allen. There's a show called The Griot with Mark Hill, and with Mark Lamont Hill, excuse me, and I have an interview with him. I'll put it up in my social media so that you can see that. But we'll be talking, I'm sure we'll be talking about Oscars and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if you tune in to The Griot with Mark Lamont Hill on Tuesday, January 30th in the afternoon hours, you will see your girl. But thank you for joining me. Give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you were here. And next week, like I said, I'll come back with some new stuff. Love, peace, and hair grease. And yeah, I'll see y'all. I love y'all. Thank you so much. Love, peace, and hair grease until the next time. Deuces.